wonderful celebration of summer in poetry and paint, which we've called Wild Attention, with me, Agnes Becker, and with Katie, Katie Triggen. So really, really welcome. Today we're going to have just a lot of fun. We're going to be playing with paints and flowers. You're really welcome to join us. I will be painting whilst Katie reads some of her poetry. And all of this is in loving attention and rapture for the natural world around us. So, purpose of our time here is to celebrate the coming of summer and to show what it means to pay loving attention, be astonished, and then tell about it. Because in a world of busyness and screens, taking the time to pause and pay loving attention to the natural world, allow ourselves to be filled with the wonder and awe that's there, is radical. It's a really radical act, especially if we then go and tell people about it and don't worry about being the nature weirdo in the village. So welcome, everybody. This is going to be a celebration of this really abundant time of year. We want to invite you to also pay loving attention, be astonished, and tell about it in whichever creative outlet works for you. And it's also a time for us to mark. We've just passed the Festival of Beltane in the Wheel of the Year, which, if you follow it, you'll know what that is. If you don't, this is a fire festival, which is a portal into summer, and it's marked on the 1st of May. It's actually a neo-pagan series of festivals throughout the year. 4 main ones being the solstices and equinoxes, and then there's cross-quarter festivals, and Beltane is the one we just passed. So we thought we'd celebrate Beltane a few days later with this this coming together on Substack. So yes, Katie, you're based in Cornwall, and Katie will share with you poems she's written that inspired her and that are linked to this season, and I'm based in Bedfordshire in the UK, and I will be painting this with seasonal wildflowers. So yes, paint along if you wish. Katie, anything to add that I've missed?
I think it's a really interesting time of year, isn't it? Because, in our kind of dreams, we think of summer as being lying on the beach, reading books, kind of chilling out, but often with kids off school and kind of unpredictable weather, it can be quite an overwhelming time. And so I think just taking some time to notice the abundance in nature, kind of that being a sort of, I think we can often get caught in a real scarcity mentality, particularly at the moment, and just taking some time to stop and breathe and notice can be really powerful. I think Beltane's a really interesting festival because it coincides with May Day, which also has associations with the labour movement. In the little villages have their village day around this time of year. So I went to Bolster this weekend, which is where in a little village called St Agnes, funnily enough, Agnes, and they act the Saint Agnes overcoming the giant Bolster, who's been terrible every year. And it's this lovely sort of coming together of community. It's slightly bonkers. It rained all day this year. But there's just lovely sort of folk festivals that happen at this time of year that can be a way to connect with community as well as nature. So it's an interesting time of year, and I'm really excited to celebrate it with you, Agnes.
Oh, thanks, Katie. I love that story. That sounds amazing. That's a celebration. I'm getting more and more interested in reenacting folk tales or stories of the land together as a community. I think there's something there that probably moves us and changes us in a way that maybe one-to-one therapy doesn't. You all come together and you go through, I don't know, the scared bit and the brave bit and the grief bit, and that's really cool that you went to that. I didn't know that went on in St Agnes. How cool. So I wanted to just briefly share, actually, whilst you were talking about this idea of scarcity, I wanted to share a really lovely quote from one of my heroes, Robin Moore Kimmerer, because gratitude is so prevalent now everywhere, isn't it? And sometimes it's like, okay, I have to do my gratitudes, but actually, when you root it in reverence, almost, that being astonished, that awe and wonder, it really counters the scarcity that we're sold. So I'm just going to read this quote. This is from her book, Braiding Sweetgrass. While expressing gratitude seems innocent enough, it is a revolutionary idea. In a consumer society, contentment is a radical proposition. Recognizing abundance rather than scarcity undermines an economy that thrives by creating unmet desires.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm going to introduce Katie briefly. Sorry, that probably bashed my microphone then. So Katie Tregiddon is a poet and narrative non-fiction author following Mary Oliver's advice to pay attention, be astonished, and tell about it. The book proposal she is spending every waking moment working on right now has already been shortlisted for the World of Book Sustainable Story Awards. Congratulations, Katie, that's amazing. And you can find her poetry here on Substack via Brackish and on Instagram at Katie Tregiddon Poet.
And I'm going to return the favour and introduce Agnes. Agnes is an artist, science communicator, and creator of We Are Stardust, which I've been lucky enough to take part in. Some of the brilliant adventures that Agnes curates. She offers a compass for returning home to your wild self and the living world on your doorstep by reigniting your sense of awe and sacred, playful creativity through art courses and from programs. In her art practice, she creates work in collaboration with nature as a reflection of our deep, intimate relationship with our messy, beautiful universe. And if you haven't seen some of the paintings that Agnes has created in collaboration with our local river in particular, they are spectacular and well.
Thank you so much, Katie. Do you know, I remember because you joined one of the adventures that I've now pulled into my year-long program, Rewild Your Soul, and there was one conversation we had. I can't remember why it was just the two of us, but I was talking about wanting to create something for the summer, which was all about wildflowers and seeds and joy and what it means for us to plant seeds as good ancestors. And you introduced me to the full poem by Mary Oliver, The Summer's Day. And that then framed the whole of that adventure. So I'm very grateful to you for that, Katie.
Shall I read it?
Yes, let's read it. Let me put my camera up so that you can see me painting. Whilst Katie is reading The Summer Day, I am going by Mary Oliver. I'm going to be painting with grasses. So I really hope I don't cut you off so you can't hear me anymore, but let's see.
Susie's
It's so easily done. Trying to get it on these little rather precarious tripods. Right. Let me see.
Agnes, Susie Powers has put a comment in the chat saying, has the sound gone? So asking,
Oh,
can still hear us? Give us a little thumbs up just so we know
I
whether
can hear you. Can you hear me, Katie?
it's just a question of whether anyone else can hear us.
Anyone else can hear us?
So yeah, give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down in the chat so we know whether it's an issue Susie's end or our end. But the poem, the bits that we tend to hear quoted from this poem is, tell me, what is it you plan on wild and precious life? And extracted from this poem and shared in isolation as some sort of carpe diem, like you're supposed to do something big and impressive with your life. And it's actually the opposite of what I think Mary Oliver meant. We've got a thumbs up from Susan, so I'm hoping that means the sound's working.
Oh, good. Okay, great.
By Mary Oliver. And I had it once, and somebody called it a summer's day, and she was like, no, it's the summer's day, very importantly. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean. The one who has flung herself out of the grass. The one who is sugar out of my hand. Who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down. Who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and bless, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, What else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
Mm, so good.
It's lovely, isn't it?
I love that description of the praying as well.
I don't know,
Um,
whereas I do know how to pay attention.
yeah,
Fine.
yeah, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, no.
So these, I think, are foxtail grasses that I've been drawing with, and I love the effect it creates with the tapping. I don't know, it always feels like it's really energetic. That lovely energetic movement of spring. So I'm going to do quite a few drawings on these small piece of paper, and then we can put them all together at the end and see what they look like.
You lift that one really, see the detail of it.
Sorry?
Lift that one really close to the camera.
Oh, yes, so you can see it. That's true. It's always hard to see from.
Ah, wow. I love the movement and the kind of looseness of it.
Yeah, this is the joy of drawing with nature that you can't really control the outcomes very tightly. So yeah, you have to go with the flow. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and that's all part of it. Have to release the perfectionism a bit, the
Maybe
control.
grass and watercolors.
Yes, so I've got a mixture of things here. I've got some this is watercolor and a bit of ink made from buttercups, which is this one here, buttercup ink,
Right.
which I'll do a bit more with the buttercup later. Then I've got some walnut husk ink, which is this lovely brown color, and this is elderberry ink, which has survived pretty well. I think I made that last summer. And then watercolors for blue and for green. This is how they all look together. I thought they looked like quite a nice color palette. Thanks. So I think now, Katie, you're going to share one of your poems, aren't you?
So this is called Poem Hunting. And this is a poem about how I write poetry, which I think is also about paying attention. So we've themed these quite well, Agnes. Poem hunting. I don't sit at my desk all day waiting for poems to arrive. Sure, sometimes they come to me unexpectedly in the shower or in the car, but most I go looking for them on the beach, in the woods, in dusty mackerel skies. I might find one flapping in the wind, its penultimate sentence snagged on a bramble in a hedgerow, or spot one looking up at me, a reflection in a rock pool. A robin may start her merry melody, and all I need to do is catch the words. From there, it's like catching a butterfly, though much less cruel. Pin it down too quickly, and it dies a dull death on the page. No, I must let it flutter a while in my mind, in my mouth. I have seen, heard it from every angle until I'm sure I know what it has to say. And only then, if I still have it, if it still feels true, may I write it down, a chance to read it out loud to you.
That's so cool. I really love the parallels actually between you poem hunting and me drawing hunting. I don't know if that's how you describe it. This one I think I've overworked a little, which is just sometimes happens. Um, and that, yes, for me to try and think of things in like paint indoors, actually, I find quite difficult. And I much prefer being outside and being inspired by what teaches me. Or maybe it's the outdoors that's giving me the ideas.
Mm.
You know, who knows?
Like, really joyous about just opening yourself up to those things.
Yeah,
It's all too easy to kind of just busily go for a walk with your headphones on and your eyes trained on your feet.
yeah,
Kind of deciding you're looking for a poem or looking for ideas or looking for anything really, I sometimes just notice everything I can see that's a certain color, or
Mm,
that meditation of five things you can see, four things you can hear,
yes.
mm, touch, two things you can smell, and one thing you can taste. And I think anything like that that helps you engage with your surroundings is really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Out of your head and into the other beings. Yeah. I've been thinking more and more actually about how, I don't know if this resonates with you, but when you're outside and making, there's like this reciprocity. So, the land gives to you, um, so much, the wind, the air that you breathe, the sunlight, that keeps you well, and how it helps you to see the food that you eat, the water you drink, and so you're receiving that, and then the creative act helps you to give back, and then you're in this loop again of reciprocity, and that helps you to feel like you belong. Um, I don't know if that resonates with you.
I love that. And I think we forget that so often, don't we? That every single time we breathe in, that is air that has been in trees and in whales and in the ocean.
Mm,
Drop of water that we drink has been in the ocean and in rivers and in rain. And yeah, just having gratitude for all of that and finding a way to give back, I think is a really beautiful way of thinking
yeah,
about something. There's a poem that Mary Oliver wrote, and I noticed something similar in the book I'm writing, which is that sometimes you go out asking for some sort of wisdom or cure, or and nature's kind of busy. It just gets on with its thing. And
yeah, yeah,
sometimes that's exactly what you need. You don't need someone, there's nothing worse when you're having a bit of a crisis than someone who's got all the advice and all the answers. Let me be. And I think nature's very good at just letting you be for a while with no judgment and no
yeah,
solutions. It just sometimes holds space for your inner tantruming toddler to tantrum it out. Get-
yeah. Yeah, there's almost like a surrender to it, isn't it? Rather than trying to figure it all out the whole time.
Especially, I think, if it's a big sky or big waves or something that just feels so much bigger and more powerful than whatever it is you're wrestling with.
Yeah, yeah, totally. That's that awe, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm going to grab my next piece of paper. And this time I'm going to use a bit of red campion. Oh, I was going to say actually about the cow parsley that I was just drawing with. We're in my paid Substack. We're exploring that at the moment, the cow parsley, and how at the moment in May here in the south of the UK anyway, it's just flourishing everywhere. There's frothy um, cow parsley along all of the paths and hedgerows, and for me, it really represents this coming of summer. And one fact I found out about the cow parsley is the cow part of it has nothing to do with cows, but it's actually a reflection of how common it is. So apparently that's a way of marking how common the flower is. But it's a really big family, these umbellifers. They look a bit like umbrellas like this. Um, yeah, it has loads of, I think there are almost 3,000 different type of species. And the leaves of the cow parsley can actually be eaten in salads and things, but you do need to really know that it's definitely cow parsley because it can look quite similar to hemlock, which is the flower that, or the plant that was used to poison Socrates. So we don't want any poisonings. Um, yeah,
So yeah, because we've got that lovely overlap between the bluebells and the three-cornered leek and the red campions and the cow parsleys and buttercups just starting to come. So they are
yeah,
absolutely beautiful.
yeah. So Daisy, I was lucky enough to speak with the Seed Sisters, Fee and Kaz from the Seed Sisters, and they love the daisy. So I thought before I started drawing with it, I might just share a little bit of medicine. They are herbalists, medical herbalists. Share some of its medicinal properties that I didn't know about. So it's called daylight because it opens in the morning, follows the sun all around until it sets and then closes at night. So it's like a blinking eye. But it's also known, similar to arnica, as a bruise healer because it contains something called saponins, which is what's used to make soap. Those soap bubbles.
Yeah.
And when we fall and knock ourselves, our inner tissues become damaged and blood leaks into the surrounding area, creating a bruise. And saponins can break down the blood and help it to disperse. So if you apply an ointment, Daisy as an ointment or cream, it promotes the healing of bruises, which is pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they also talk about it being an emotion in terms of emotion and spiritual properties, helps you bounce back from emotional bruising, strengthening resilience and character, which I would never have thought a lovely little bit. Tiny Daisy there in all those lawns would do that.
Yeah, Sam's just put in the chat. That's fascinating. It is, isn't it?
Mm. Sip of water. Right. So, what have we got next? Oh, yes, I love this. Your next poem.
What's the Sun, which mentions daisies and red campions? The Sun. A beech tree breaking into leaf from blushing buds beside the A30. A furry white-tailed bee, bumblingly unaware of her species' decline. A dopey newborn rabbit, lolloping hedgewards, not roadwards. The cacophony of colour in gated gardens, morning birds singing in the spring. The garlicky scent of dew-laden leek. The last few dandelion seeds that won't be blown, won't be wishes. Red campion and bluebells between McDonald's wrappers in the hedge. Daisies that closed for the night now wide open to a mackerel sky after days of rain. Is this enough? Can I really string these things together like fairy lights? Can I mold them into candle wax and find among them a match? Can I line them up end to end and forge them into a crowbar to tilt the axis of the earth back towards the sun?
Beautiful, Katie.
You?
I love how you describe with all these flowers in amongst the roadside, amongst the McDonald's wrappers, and their resilience is incredible, isn't it?
And I think it's about what you choose to see.
Mm-hmm.
I was sort of struggling with some belated winter blues, despite the fact spring was very clearly on her way. And it's that sort of thing of, do I look at the A30? Do I worry about the rabbit ending up in the road? Do I look at the McDonald's wrappers? Or do I try to notice that the rabbit went the right way? And
Yeah.
that was in the hedge as well. And I think it's that thing of, we're told to notice these little things, but sometimes in the face of depression, they feel a little bit futile. And you sort of think, can I make these little things add up to enough? And yeah, I think at the time I wrote that poem, the answer was no.
Yeah.
But I think now the answer is yes. So it's just a question of sticking with it and also making sure you're on the right HRT dosage.
Yes, that definitely helps. Thank you, Menton. Um, yeah, it's so true. I also find that there are times when the wonder and the magic is just not there, and it can feel like it will never come back, and that's quite scary. Um, yeah, I think one thing nature always teaches us is that um, the light will return, usually. um, and winter doesn't last forever.
No, I've just made a little vision board to put above my writing desk, and there's a quote on it that says, "We have a proverb. At the end of every night, there is a morning. At the end of every darkness, there is sunshine. And meanwhile, we are writing."
Yes, right, all of it. Yeah,
Yeah. And whether that's writing or painting or whatever your particular
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. I think that acknowledging of the dark side of things is really, or the less pleasant side of things is really important. There's often, in nature connection, we can take a lot from the beauty and the wonder and the um just the abundance of everything around us. And also nature is when can also be really brutal, and that is all part of it as well. Um and acknowledging that, like, the void, the empty void is also part of the cycles that govern our universe. Creation destruction is really important as well.
I love this painting, Agnes. Tell us about this.
I'm really pleased with it too. I'm just going to hold it up. I think the composition worked a bit better.
Yeah.
Hmm, interesting. All a bit of an experiment.
How have you created the different elements on there?
So these are the daisies that have been, like, printed down almost. And then these drawings, I try and just look at the plant whilst I draw rather than the page. I did look a bit at the page for that one to make sure they're quite in the right place. But it's one of my favourite exercises, is drawing without looking at the page. Really gets you looking at the plant.
Gorgeous. Yeah, it makes you notice, doesn't it? Rather
Yeah.
than I always remember my art teacher saying that people tend to draw what they expect to see rather than what's actually in front of them.
Yes. Exactly.
So absorb it, level of attention.
Should I save this one for the last one? So I'm afraid, Katie, I couldn't find any beautiful shop-worthy tulips. But I found this one in my garden, and I kind of like how it's slightly decaying. Um, so for your next poem, I'm going to use this one.
I think tulips are a lesson in transience, aren't they? Because they
Mm,
they lose their petals, and I think you have to kind of enjoy that about tulips if you're going to have a relationship with tulips.
yeah.
That tulips and is inspired by a genuine childhood memory. So my stepmom's tulips. Resilience is my middle name. Knock me down and I rise. I find ways to stay alive. Honestly, I wish my name was something softer, something with petals, perhaps. Poppy, daisy, rose, something open that holds on its shoulders nothing more than morning dew. Then I remember my stepmom's tulips. She tarmacked the flower bed, but come spring, they grew again, shrugged asphalt from their shoulders, burst up through her drive, soft, open, finding ways to stay alive.
Yes. Go tulips.
Go tulip.
I saw some neighbours recently. They got rid of their grass on their front lawn and covered it all with astroturf instead. And me and my daughter watched it happen over a few days as we, walked past. Um, yeah, I think sometimes in my little online bubble, I forget that the way that I see the world is not perhaps how everyone else sees it. Um, and this is why I think this telling about it is so important.
Yeah.
normalizing it.
Yeah, and we sort of think our gardens are too small to make a difference, but everybody
Mm.
has a vast amount of land, and if we can all kind of create our gardens for biodiversity as much as we can, that creates these little corridors that creatures can travel through. It's so important. I love this.
Yeah, I'm quite enjoying this as well. It's working out quite well. Let's see if I can keep it going. Yeah, and the other, sorry, go ahead.
It's that sort of looseness, isn't it, that
Mhm.
all gives you.
Yes, it's very this is the elderberry ink that I'm using, the red, which you can't see right now, but when it dries, so this is one, here's one I made earlier. I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but you get the pigment sort of separates a little bit.
Nice, yeah.
And I really love that effect. So yeah, maybe I'll take some photos once it's finished, once they've dried out, and you can see what they look like then as well.
Maybe we can add the poems with the photos and
Yes! Oh my goodness, why didn't we think of doing that before? Let's do that.
I'll be tapping you up for a flower drawn image for every poem I publish.
Oh, I love that. Only if you read them whilst I paint, though. Okay, so the last poem was all about apple blossoms, which mine in my garden have all finished now. So I found some strawberry
Oh,
blossoms, and I've also got some buttercups. And I got to know the buttercup a few years ago as part of that summer adventure that I do in my year-long program, possibly with you, Katie. I can't quite remember, but I found out that there are actually at least three different types of buttercup. This is from my journal at that time, my world journal. The meadow buttercup, the bulbous buttercup, which has this like bulbous bit on the bottom, and the creeping buttercup, which has these runners and creates more um, buttercup plants through the runners. Um, so that was very curious, and I was trying to figure out whether which ones these were. I think they're two different ones. I collect them from two different places, and one is the creeping one, I think, and then one is possibly the meadow one with these really big flowers here, and they have lots of amazing common names like creeping crazy, devil's guts, lantern leaves, old wives' threads, and tanglegrass, goldweed, soldier buttons, kingcup, crow peckle, which is from Northamptonshire, which is close to where I live. Um, so yeah, amazing that they. I guess we've had a relationship with these buttercups for a long time.
I feel like
Yeah.
a poem just in buttercup names.
Yes, there probably is actually. So yes, no apple blossom. I will do strawberry blossom and some drawing with some buttercups. And this page has been prepared with some ink that I made from buttercups from my garden last year. Yeah, in June last year, and it's survived remarkably well in the fridge, much to my husband's annoyance. So over to you, Katie.
My fridge is full of old vintage camera film.
No way! I didn't know that. That's cool.
Your fridge, and you're not really a creative, eh? Um, this is called When They Turn the Sun On Again after Anne Sexton. When they turn the sun on again, I'll hang my washing on the line. I'll write letters of pride to my ancestors again. I'll plant apple seeds to grow trees and apples and more seeds. I'll salsa with you in Havana streets again. I'll daydream and sleep dream and hope dream. I'll lay down my weapons and make love again. I'll rest in the shade of the trees of my forebears. I will line up beach treasures for your delectation again. I'll go everywhere by bike or by train. I'll make soup and lay an extra place at my table again. I'll have soil up my nails, a pencil in my hair, and I won't care. I will live in dungarees and faded workwear again. I'll drink inky dark coffee with my neighbours. We'll swap excess courgettes for beans again. I will know the names of their kids and their grandkids, and the rain will never wash their chalk rainbows off pavements again.
I'd love to know more about that poem. It's beautiful.
It's inspired by a line in an Anne Sexton poem, which is when they turn the sun on again. And I think is interesting in retrospect is that there's nothing to stop me doing any of these things now. And I think,
Yeah.
yeah, that there's a term VUCA, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And there's this idea that as we move into climate crisis, as we live alongside climate crisis, we are in VUCA times. And I think there's a sense at the moment of holding our breath and waiting till everything calms down, and then we'll do X, Y, and Z.
Mm,
The most heartbreaking and freeing realization is that this is not temporary. This VUCA state of being is the way of the world now. So we can't wait for them to turn the sun back on. We need to hang on watching on our line and daydream and make soup and actually of how we turn the sun back on, right? We have to kind of live as if um Journeys in Wonder says beautiful poem, short rainbows are so summery. Thank you. And I think that that was also a reference to COVID and the sort of COVID was horrendous and awful, and we lost people and a lot of really bad things happened. And alongside that, I think there was that things could be different. You know, having plans on a Thursday evening for the NHS in our window. From the end of COVID, the chalk rainbows got washed off the pavements, right? There was just this sense of back
yeah.
to, and it breaks my heart that we don't seem to have learned some of the lessons from that time. But yeah, so I love that idea of the chalk rainbows never being washed off the pavements again.
Yes. I think about that COVID time quite a lot. That was when I changed quite a lot in my business as well. And you're right. Suddenly the wild was on our
Mhm.
doorsteps. It was just so much louder, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe loud is the wrong word. I don't know. Like more noticeable, or we decided to notice it more, maybe. And it kind of came to our rescue in many ways, didn't it? I really remember that first spring, and the cow parsley was what I really remember from it. It was just how abundant it was, and in
We
all of
had,
the hedgerows.
we had an albino pheasant who came and hung out on one of our windowsills for days, which was really,
Wow, that's incredible.
yeah, I was absolutely terrified the first time I looked out the window. Like, what?
What is that?
Hung out with us
um,
for a while.
and I love the I can't remember the acronym you shared again, but that idea of living in the way that you would like the world to be already, rather than waiting. I think there's always this, especially when comes to creative acts. There's always this thing. Oh, once I've done all the other things, then I'll have time to do the things that actually light me up, that maybe are the gifts that I've been given. And Robin Wall Kimmerer often talks about, the gifts like we were talking about earlier with the sun. The sunshine gifts its warmth and its light. What do we gift back? And if you, often the gifts are things that we find come most easily to us.
Mm.
And yet, especially with creative work, we're often taught that that's not important enough, or
Yeah.
shouldn't be prioritized.
And I think it's something that Adrienne Marie Brown talks about in Emerging.
Mm, mm,
There is not going to be a moment in time where someone says, right, we've solved the climate crisis, we've achieved social justice, you
yeah,
know, be working towards those things.
yeah,
And if we want to live in a world in which, for example, women are well rested, we need to rest. If we want
Yeah.
to people get to express their creativity, we need to express our creativity. And it's sort of there's a sort of change you want to see, which I think can sometimes sound a bit like a burden, well, unless you're perfect, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
Of understanding that this world that we're trying to bring about, those of us who are involved in changing, how much of that can we embody now, enact now, as ways to take care of ourselves through this VUCA time.
Yeah.
Thing that this sense of it being temporary often makes us think, well, I'll rest when all of this is over. But if you understand that this is it now, we are in a VUCA world, you need to rest today. You need to
Yeah.
take care today. It's not going away. And I think it's quite a scary shift, but it's also quite a freeing shift.
Mm.
Uh, because we are in the climate crisis. It's not something not in the biodiversity. What can we do today? And whether, I've got a little Belfast sink in my front garden that will get turned into a pond this summer. Uh, Tiny intervention, right? It's the size of a sink, but I'm really trying
Yeah.
to eat some pond skaters, and it's those little that I think once we realize we're in this, we can do that help and also bring us joy and find things that do. But yeah,
Yeah. And I think it's also really easy to think of like it can get really big, can't it? There's so much to sort out, so much to solve. Yet when you just take that one little step, you don't know where that will lead to. Maybe you'll start restoring ponds in all the villages in Cornwall. Yeah, I don't know, but do you know what I mean? You never know quite where these things will head. And and so to get paralyzed, not doing the next step because it might not be enough.
yeah. And I think that
Um,
story, and I will get the details wrong, so forgive me, but there is a story of a man who stood outside the White House throughout the Vietnam War and lit a candle every night and said to him, like, do you really think you're going to change anything? You're just one man with one candle. Like, what do you think this is going to change? No, you're not going to stop the war. And he said, no, but I need to make sure the war doesn't change me.
mm,
Actually, he needed to live in alignment with his values of the impact that may or may not make. And I think I was watching a BBC drama called Marianne said earlier this week. And there's this moment where it's suggested to the king that if he had a mistress, people would blame the mistress and shift blame away from his wife. And he just said, that's not who I am. And then
mm,
the example, but I just think part of this is just about being true to who you are, regardless of the impact. And I think that comes from doing good for biodiversity as much as it comes from creative expression. I've spent decades telling myself I'm not a poet, and it's only recently I've allowed myself to re-explore this part of myself that turns out is really fulfilling and really exciting and lights me up like nothing else. And that's allowed, I get to do that.
yes, I'm totally with you. Same with calling myself an artist has taken a long time to allow myself to do that because I didn't go to art school. So am I a fraud, etc., etc. And actually, it just doesn't matter. Just doesn't matter. What matters is no one really cares. Actually, is the thing. Apart from you, and it hurts you in the end, doesn't it?
So beautiful, Agnes.
So are your poems. Thank you so much. This has been really fun. I'm going to just leave them there for a moment so people can see them, and then I'm going to attempt to take this off again so you can see me. But yeah, this is the tulips, the cow parsley, the red campion and daisy, buttercup, and strawberry grasses. And that was a test I did before, which was with the daisies as well.
I love them. So kind of just to summarize some of the techniques, drawing without looking at the paper and just looking at the flower.
Mm. And then using the flower as a paintbrush, and you can make so many more, or grasses, you can make so many interesting marks with that. I've also really enjoyed actually drawing into the ink whilst it's wet. I think that's going to be interesting to see when it dries what that looks like. And then just layering them. And sometimes it gets a bit overworked, and sometimes, like these two, I think, sometimes the composition doesn't quite work. And then sometimes, yeah, it kind of works. And we'll see. And as it dries, because they're natural inks, natural pigments, they will change. They're often called fugitive because they change as they dry. You can already see it actually on this one a bit. It's starting to separate. Interesting. I'll try and take some nice photos of them and upload them afterwards. Right, I'm going to attempt to take this down now. Bear with me.
Sam said, into the poems. Thank you. You are so welcome, Sam. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for joining. I can hear. So, what do we have for our closing marks? Yes, we would love to know if any of these drawings or poems have inspired you to go out and enjoy this early summertime, pay loving attention to it, allow yourself to be astonished, and then tell about it. We're going to have the recording up on both of our channels, or what do you call them? Publications on Substack. So please come and comment there and share any pictures that you did as well if you were drawing at the same time. And I'm going to invite you to follow Katie on Substack for more beautiful poems. And if you're a paid subscriber, you get poems sent to you in the post each month, which is so lovely.
And I myself and try to experiment with drawings. Sometimes it's a zine. They're very amateur, but a little.
Such a lovely idea.
And I'm going to encourage you to follow Agnes for her wonderful podcast on living a wildly enchanted life, videos like this one of her art process, and articles on what it means to rewild your soul. I followed Agnes's work for a long time and it has brought me so much joy, so highly recommended.
Thank you so much, Katie. So we have some closing remarks. Katie, I feel you should say these because you came up with the idea.
Well, we've used this phrase a lot today, but I could really spend a moment with it. And this comes from a Mary Oliver poem called Instructions for Living a Life. And the poem in its entirety runs, pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. And I love Agnes's addition to that of pay loving attention and this idea of bringing that warmth and care into it. But yeah, happy Beltane. Have a gorgeous summer as it draws closer, and come back and share with us the results of your field work of paying attention, being astonished, and telling about it.
Indeed. Thank you so much. So thank you, Katie. Take care, everybody.